What's up, fam? On this episode of the Foresight Podcast, we're going to be spending some time talking to photographer and entrepreneur, JENITA, Miss J. HLADYSHEWSKY. I got it right. I'm proud of myself. You know what? Let's go, guys. We always judge you. I just want you to know that. But at least we know that when it comes to counting down, you are the countdown king. We appreciate you for that. We really do. Just want to have a little fun. It looks like you're having a hard time, but we're going to make it through. Oh, man, let's get started. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Foresight Podcast. I am your host, David Gordon, better known as, or AKA, DKG72. That's my screen name on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, and all over the internet. And today we've got a very special guest, someone I've known for a while now, and she's just been doing her thing in the world of photography and being an entrepreneur. So we're definitely going to have a lot of fun having a good conversation with her. But before we get started, as always, we got to do a little house cleaning. So first and foremost, we have to say thank you to everybody that's showed up and is listening to the podcast. Thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. And welcome to all our listeners. Welcome to any new listeners. I hope you guys enjoy the show. And then got to give shout outs to the guy that I give a hard time to all the time, but still does an amazing job. Our our super producer, Lamar Harris, aka DJ Noonie, aka the hardest working man in showbiz, well, in St. Louis anyway. So, like I said, our guest today, I've known her for a while, and she's just really just an amazing person, great personality, just all around one of the hardest working people I know. And she, before pre-pandemic, she was building probably what was on its way to becoming the top photo studio in St. Louis, or in the St. Louis area, in my opinion, just from what I could see on my timeline. People I knew, people I had no idea knew her, would just be like, I just got my photos. So I was like, wow, okay. And she's also a person whose last name I can never pronounce. So with that, Miss JENITA J, please pronounce your last name for me.
No worries. HLADYSHEWSKY is the last name, but J is fine.
HLADYSHEWSKY. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Oh, good. All right. Yeah, every time I look at it, I'm like, and I've been like looking at it for the past 2 weeks, like, how am I going to make it through this part? This is the part right here. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. But nevertheless, I got it for now. I'll probably need a reminder.
No worries.
All right, Jay, but honestly and for real, seriously, what's your superhero origin story, and how did you get to where you were with your studio and everything?
Well, I would say part of my story is just growing up and being accepting of who I was. Mm-hmm. The minute you're able to really be genuine to yourself, you're really able to empower others. And so in doing that, I'm a 45-year-old woman, but when I turned 40, it kind of was this changing point of just allowing myself to see who I am. And in doing that, I realized that, this would be great if I could do it for other people as well. So that was a big progression. And at the end of the day, I just simply love to be able to have the ability to show other people who they are and the beautiful being that they are.
That's what's up. So when I first met you, you were working in a non-for-profit.
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk today. In the non-for-profit sector, and you were in a management role there, right?
Yeah.
And I remember we had a phone conversation. You said, "Well, Dave, I'm really into photography. I love to do photography, and I just haven't really been doing it that much." And I was like, "Well, maybe you should take it back up as a hobby." About 2 years later, I get a message from you. It's like, "Check this out," and I'm like, "Wait, you have a whole studio? When did you get I got all new cameras and everything." So. What started your love of photography to begin with, anyway? To just where'd that come from?
So a good friend of mine loved photography, and so she took pictures of my son when he was little, mm-hmm. and never really thought much of it. And it was great because I always had all these pictures I could have of him, and I didn't have to do any of the work. Mm-hmm. And then she went and joined the military and served our country, but she took away my photographer by doing that. And so I realized after a few months, I'm like, wow, I don't have any pictures of my son. So I picked up a camera and just started taking pictures, and realized that I kind of liked it. And I also realized that it's a skill. If you mm-hmm. work at it and you try to just simply, know that you're not going to be perfect on the first shot, and you keep going, you get better. Mm-hmm. And so that evolved into I just got kind of better and better, and I love taking pictures of other kids and mm-hmm. other families, and so I did it for friends, I did it for my family, and then lo and behold, I was gifted with a camera from my brother. He was very, very generous, and part of that was basically saying, with this, you have to charge people. This is for real now. You gotta get some money back from this. So I started doing that. And so my first kind of entrepreneurial piece was everyday photos, and it was the idea that, hey, I'm not perfect, mm-hmm. but I'm going to try to capture your life as perfectly as possible.
Right.
And in doing that, I went on to take pictures of families and other children, and it was fun. It was a really great side gig too.
Right.
But what I found was when a friend of mine asked me to do a boudoir photo session for her, I said, number one, I've never done anything like that before, so mm-hmm. I don't know what it's going to look like. And the big misconception is when people can take photos that they can take them in anything, format.
Yes.
And that is not true.
No.
On any level. That
right.
is not true. And so I went ahead and I tried, and I just loved it. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? I really want to do something with this. So that went on to working with, again, just a couple other girls that I just, again, did for fun, and every part of it I loved. So mm-hmm. I enjoyed and I liked taking photos of family and children and capturing that, but there was no real drive to want this as a full-time job. Mm-hmm. Because, again, I never want my jobs to feel like work.
Right.
And so in doing that, I realized the boudoir sector was where I really felt comfortable, and I felt like I was doing something beyond just taking a picture.
Okay. Dope. Explain to the audience, because there's probably a bunch of dudes listening to this, and, we're caveman, Cro-Magnon, what constitutes a boudoir photo shoot?
Right. And I've learned that over time that term is not something that everybody knows. Women, men, everybody in between. Mm-hmm. So boudoir is considered intimate in the sense that a lot of times people will do it in little clothing to lingerie, mm-hmm. To fine art nudes. Mm-hmm. So it can kind of be anywhere in that kind of level.
Okay.
With my studio, I term it as intimate glamour.
Okay.
And even more of what people don't realize what boudoir is they also really don't know what intimate glamour is. And
right.
What I mean by that is that I can do a fine art nude, I can shoot you in lingerie, but you could also come in and fully clothed in a beautiful dress, and I can pose you in a seductive manner, and I can teach you how to hold your mouth and how to breathe and how to look or not look at the camera. And it can be just as seductive as any other picture you could take.
Yeah, I've been following you for a while, and I've seen the pictures. I'm like, wow. And then you're looking at the pictures, and then you're looking at one stage. You're like, oh man, she looks great. And then at the other hand, you're like, oh wow, the lighting.
Yeah.
The whole artist thing kicks in, and you're like, well, oh, this looks so dope. So, when you're doing the boudoir photo shoot, how does that session normally work? Is it a lot of lighting? Is it a lot of mood? Do you sit, play music? How does that work?
So I always tell people it is an intimate glamour experience. You will get intimate glamour portraits from them, but the experience is what I actually love more than anything.
Okay.
So it's about truly pampering a woman and bringing her in and showing her that you need to be loved in a way that somebody is completely and utterly taking care of you. Because many times as women, we tend to take care of others and we really don't take time for ourselves. So the experience usually lasts about 4 to 5 hours. You come in.
Wow.
Yeah. You come in, and this is even before that, I do a full survey that explains, okay, this is what will happen, and then ask you questions on how I can customize it to you. So what kind of colors do you like? What kind of style do you like? Do you like black and whites? Do you like color? Do you like vivid color? All these questions really customize it for that person. And then we create a shared Pinterest board so that they can give me some ideas, because women love Pinterest a lot of times, and they are like, oh, I want to do this shot and this shot. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to do something like that, but I'm going to put my own spin on it as well. And then when they actually come in for that day, I usually serve light snacks. I have either mimosas or wine or non-alcoholic things that you would like, whatever you want in between. And then my makeup artist comes in and does full hair and makeup. And then we start shooting. And we'll shoot for a good 2 to 3 hours. And in doing that, answering the lighting piece for you, a lot of photographers will have kind of just like one style. Either they're dark and moody or an airy and bright. And what I like to do is to kind of give everything. So I utilize natural lighting, specifically in certain vignettes of my studio. I'll utilize really dark, deep, shadowing that you'll be able to just kind of see silhouettes of the person, or just pops of color. I have ones that are kind of like a little bit more on the moody side, but still kind of a light look to it. And then I love being able to just simply capture the person and how the light is grabbing them. So kind of move off of that. And in doing that, I wouldn't say I have one specific lighting style. Shadows are really big to me. Dark shadows and moodiness I love, but I definitely always like to challenge myself and give that person the opportunity to have that light, airy look as well.
Oh, that is nice. That's dope. So just from an artistic standpoint, who are some of the guys or some of the women that have influenced you and in your creative journey of being a photographer?
Yeah, so I had 4 gentlemen that have been amazing, local in the St. Louis area, that kind of took me under their wing and were really able to give me the kind of the first step into lighting. And in doing that, they really encouraged me across the board. And I wanted to be able to do my own thing, but at the same time learn, right? And so I knew their style was really awesome because it was really bright and almost reminded you of something that would be in like a magazine, like again, really clear cut lighting, everything like that, really sharp images. And that was really cool. But I'm like, okay, what can I take from this and make it my own? So none of my shoots really look like theirs, which is a really good thing in the sense of like I feel like I'm not taking away anything from them, but at the same time it's something different. And
you see the inspiration.
Yeah, definitely am inspired by them.
Okay, that's dope. So if you didn't know, the Foresight Podcast, we're basically a podcast where creators talk to creators, and we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of how we come across or come to put together these projects that we put together.
Yeah.
And being two creators in the creative space in a town as small as St. Louis, or as large but small at the same time, sometimes you may come across a place that somebody you know may have already looked at. And we have an interesting shared story, don't we, Jenita?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. I remember you were talking about getting a space to really have this studio, and trying to just encourage one another, entrepreneur to entrepreneur, and say, like, hey, it's going to be scary, and it's going to be something that you feel like, okay, I feel like I'm like diving off the side into a pool that I may not necessarily have a life jacket or know how to swim very well, but I'm going to do my best.
Right.
But it's extremely scary, and so in doing that, I remember talking to you about looking at studio space and going, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm gonna look for a space, and I found eventually a space again. Just the universe provided me a great space, literally 5 minutes away from me in Illinois. But then coming to your space today, I was familiar with Nebula and love it, and then you brought me into specifically your studio space, and I'm like, this was one of the rooms I was going to pick for my studio. So it's literally the room that I was looking at to get space in for my studio at one point.
This is that which is hilarious and fun. But, and we have had a lot of conversations about just doing what we do and the struggles of being an entrepreneur. So when I was kind of about to make that step out, and then I finally found this space, and I posted it up, and you're like, that was the space I was going to get. And I kept thinking to myself, well, one, thank God you didn't get it.
Yeah.
But then two, I think shortly right after I had posted my space, you had sent me an invite to your new space.
Yeah.
And when I got to your new space, I have to admit, you made the better choice.
Yeah. Again, universe provided. The universe provided.
But there's an interesting story behind how you ended up at your new space.
Yeah.
So kind of walk us through how that happened, because these are the struggles creatives go through.
Right, exactly. And I think that that's a really important point to point out, because as creatives we have a lot of vision, but making that vision come to reality is really scary for us.
Yes,
because it brings everything that's in our head into real life with a bill to go with it.
Right.
And knowing that, I went ahead and I'm a firm believer in having some sort of vision of what you want to do. And so I actually created a workshop around what I call empowerment boards. So most people call them vision boards. My workshop's a little bit different. But the idea is that you have this vision board on your phone as a screensaver of your phone. And I knew I wanted a new space. And so I was like, okay, one day if I can get a new space, one day if I become bigger, I would love it to look like this. And so I had this picture of like this bright light, and it was like a loft kind of space with this really, really tall, extremely unique looking black staircase, and it went up into a loft, and I was just like, one day. And lo and behold, I up and out of nowhere lost the studio that was at, and I called a guy and was like, hey, I need something. I'd really like to stay in O'Fallon. I'm kind of used to that now. And he's like, okay, well, I'll look for you. And I was like, all I need is like tall ceilings and natural light. And he's like, in O'Fallon? And I'm like, yeah, if you could, man, that'd be really great. And so
again, he's like, in O'Fallon.
Right, in O'Fallon, Illinois. Yeah, we're not a very old city, so like even old buildings in itself is hard to find. So he's like, yeah, see what I can do. And called me back like a half an hour later. He's like, I don't know what kind of juju you have, but I went and found this space, and it's like, it has to be too good to be true. It's everything you're looking for. So long story longer, I got the space, and then I was sitting there, and not only did I get the space, but the guy that owned the building forgot to put the 1 in front of the price.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, well, universe, that didn't work out very well. And so I went back to him. I was like, I don't know. This space is really perfect, though. I don't know how I can swing it. And so the guy said, you know what? The guy that owned the place said, I like your story. I like your local girl. I like you're going to be bringing people back and forth. This was like more of an office space before. Mm-hmm. He's like, it'll be able to get more traction in the building, I'll take off the 1 for 3 years. Right.
Man.
So I went ahead and was like, again, universe provides if you allow it. And so what was even more incredible is I was waiting for a friend of mine to come over to show her the new space. And I looked up and it hit me. This is the picture that's on my phone, on my vision board. Long staircase, natural light flooding in, exposed brick, loft up top. Everything I wanted, it was right there. When
I walked into the space, when you did your open house, I walked in, I was just like, oh, wow. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it is a beautiful space because I did a photo shoot at your old studio, which was really, it was a banging studio. But then this new place, you're really like, I think this was like full on JENITA, just going.
Thank you.
Just going ham, the loft and everything. I was like, good grief.
Full kitchen, right?
Full kitchen too. Yeah.
Right? Like, it's crazy.
It's like, the full kitchen, and it was another little area, like a little office area or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, this is perfect.
Yeah, it is. It's perfect.
So what was it like when you first started doing photo shoots in the new studio, that new space? What was it like breaking it in, just kind of getting used to it? Yeah, just being able to say, okay, I've been working this space in a different way, because my last place, again, was much smaller, had a different look to it. Even the way in which light bounced off the walls. So the old space had like this really deep, rich, kind of pinkish, deep mauve color. I'm artistic, but I don't know my colors. But that's the only way to describe it. But it was neat because like the lighting really gave me that moody look when I wanted it, where this was like bright and kind of white, and it was very different to play off of. So I said, you know what, instead of trying to make it what it's not, play with what it is. Right. And so I was really able to, again, change my look. I was able to give a brighter, airier look in photos. I was able to, there's one really dark navy blue wall in one area, and I was like, okay, well, if I want to use this in a lot of different ways, that's where the bed needs to be. And so I went and had the bed positioned there, and again, everything, the way the natural light came in, the way I could shut the blinds and have it deep, dark, and moody when I wanted it. It was everything, and it is everything. I love it. Man, that's dope. So what are some of your favorite pictures that you've taken? What are some of the pictures that it was like an adventure that you just, oh, wow, this came out? Yeah. And, the build up and then the actual picture, and then when you actually showed it, what was that like? Or what are those to you? So ironically, one of my favorite pictures is not necessarily on a photographer's level, the crispest, the most sharp, the whatever you want to call it, right? But when I took the photo, it was my friend that went and posed for me, and I said, I just need some demo, I need to build up my portfolio. Can you do this for me? And so in my space, I built what I call my wall of windows. And so that's my kind of unique backdrop. But I placed it in front of the actual full window. And so light was flooding through this kind of wall of windows and all the little cracks and crevices. And I had her positioned there, just kind of leaning back in the chair. And the minute it clicked, I was like, this is it. This is the photo. I don't even have to look at the back of the camera. So knowing that that moment
was amazing because not only was it the picture that represented everything that Bellissima was, but it was one of the first pictures I took.
And kind of one of those happy accident type deals where it's like, it's not perfect, but it's perfect.
Right, exactly.
I love those as an artist. I do. So now that you have the studio and you were building up the clientele and everything, 2020 hits.
For everybody.
For everybody. Yeah. So we're going to talk about 2020, but first we're going to pay some bills. And when we get back, we're going to talk about how you ended up pivoting and adding and growing your business as well.
Great.
So on that note, we'll be right back. This is Dave Gordon with the Foresight Podcast. Hey, what's up, fam? DKG72 here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about Patreon. If you know, at the end of every video, I always ask you guys to head over to Patreon, pick a tier, and choose, and your monthly donations help us, the studio, create more and more great content for you guys to watch and listen to and read and enjoy. This month, I just added on a new tier, which is our $15 Foresight Gang tier. Gang. I always wanted to do that in the video. Anyway, with the $15 Foresight Gang tier, you're going to get 15% off the merch store on foresightstudio.com. You also get the Foresight Podcast 1 week ahead of its drop date. You also get a free black and white pinup downloadable that you can download every month. And yeah, it's just a cool tier. Now, there are the other tiers, like there's the $5 tier, there's $10 tier, where you get like 5% off, 10% off. And then there's the $20 tier in which you get a whopping 25% off. So head over to patreon.com, DKG72Comics, and check out all the tiers and figure out which one works for you. And just remember, the $15 tier and the $20 tier, you'll get the Foresight Podcast 1 week ahead of its drop date. All right, guys, it's your boy DKG72, and I'm out. Peace.
5, 4, 3, 2.
And we're back. So we're talking with Miss J. I was trying. I was like,
I know. It's okay.
Total fail. But we're talking with Miss J, and we were talking about her building what I think is at some point going to become the top boudoir photo studio in the St. Louis area. It was rapidly on its way there. You pop up Facebook, the timeline. How do you know her? She took my photos. Holy smokes. Okay. That was cool. And I think we all were looking at 2020 in 2019 in a whole different prism than what we're looking at 2020 in 2020 as. So this seems to kind of be a standard question. How did you handle the devastation of the pandemic and how it kind of just messed everybody up?
Yeah. I think in the beginning, I'll be the first to tell you. I remember I still owe my mom $100 because I said, you know what? Give it 2 weeks. It'll be done. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. But to be honest, I didn't really see it unraveling the way it did, and I didn't see it for, of course, the length that it did. Mm-hmm. But in doing that, and the way I was able to survive, at least till today, is really being able to backtrack and look at the way I force myself to say, you know what, I know what I'm worth, and I have to ask what I'm worth. Mm-hmm. And so I changed my business plan back in October of 2019, a year ago. And so because of my business plan structure was different, payment plans were different, amount of money coming in was different. And so I was very lucky that I did it just in time. And so I really encourage people to do payment plans because you can break a big number down in small little numbers that are much more feasible to do. So I was able to have payment plans paid throughout. I still have them throughout this year. And many of the reasons why I was able to do that is because I simply said to most of my people, as soon as I knew that all this was really going where it was going, I said, I reached out to everybody and said, make a payment when you can make a payment.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't make a payment, it's okay.
Yeah.
Just when you can, make a payment.
Yeah.
And people have been really, really great about that. But also, that being said, a friend of mine worked on the East Coast as a nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And before it really kind of hit, and knowing how bad it would hit here, she sat me down, probably it was back in March.
Mm-hmm.
And she called me and we were talking, and she was just really overwhelmed. And as you could imagine, working on the East Coast during all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, JENITA, July 1, prepare at the soonest, July 1. And I'm like, July 1?
Wow.
But you know what? Thank God, because I took her advice to heart and said, you know what, I might as well plan for it and be happily surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And so in planning for it, just during that time, that's when the loans started coming out. And I probably would have never taken a loan if I would have thought it was on my own timeline of what I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went ahead and I just planned for that and got a loan through a small business association. And luckily, I'm still here.
There you go.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also made an addition to your business.
Yeah.
And what was the motivating factor behind expanding into your new business that's very different from Bellissimo?
Yeah, very different. So I would say first, I always allow the universe to bring me what it's supposed to bring me, and be open to saying yes. So I can change very quickly. I can pivot very quickly. And in doing that, I had a conversation recently with a gentleman that owns a gym, and we talked about simply just, hey, you probably train women. When you train women, they tend to feel better about themselves. They might want a picture taken of them, just trying to be a referral source if possible. And that didn't quite work out, and that was fine. But I started asking him questions about him, and what kinds of things do you do, and what kinds of clientele do you have? And he's like, honestly, my clientele is mostly high school athletes. Mm-hmm. And maybe a little bit younger, just trying to get into college and play ball, whether it's on a collegiate level or professional level, whatever that may be. I just try to train them in that way. And I said, okay, so I switched my head in that sense and went and pivoted to my old job of working in the workforce industry. And I used to be a director of workforce for a nonprofit in the area, and thought, okay, so skills that kids need to be noticed by a recruiter or a college, they also are very similar skill sets to individuals that need to be noticed and recruited for a job. Mm-hmm. And I used to work with youth. So I went ahead and in doing that, I was like, okay, how could I take what I know how to do and really make it so that it could be utilized for a student athlete? Because as we know, we're in a day and age where it's not just a kid that gets recruited for a position and then he's put on the field and he does well and then he's done, right?
Right.
It's who is he? Is he going to be an effective, student at the school? Is he going to be representative, when we put him in front of a camera? Is he going to have effective social media skills?
Right.
All these things that we really are able to teach individuals that do this on the workforce level. But again, you're showing up the same way. Your university is your employer in essence. And so how can we make that in a way to train those individuals off the field and making sure that it's just as important as the training that they get on the field? And so I have made a new company called Unlock. Mm-hmm. And Unlock is a way in which to truly unlock that true professional student athlete within, so that that individual can show up on the field, but yet show out for a university beyond it.
That's a pretty amazing business plan right there.
Thank you.
And so what are some of the things that that you specifically drill down or when you're working with your student athletes? Well, let's take that back. Let's walk that back for a second. When you get a student athlete, how do you kind of look to see, okay, this is where they need? Do you do an evaluation or?
So we will. We're in the beginning stages. So I'm going to be very transparent. We're in the very beginning stages. But knowing that myself and the individual that works with me, she actually works in the space of being a college advisor, and she's going to be transferring out of that soon. And so then I work in a space that I used to work with individuals, again, not only just adults going and looking for a job, but youth as well.
Right.
So that same kind of category. And so I know that before we even get started, I need to know just some basic things about you. You know, where are you going to school? What kind of sports do you play? What position? Where are you kind of looking at? Where would you like? What's your top, schools that you'd like to be recruited for? And more importantly, too, like, what are all those little steps beyond just getting recruited, right? Like, how much money am I going to need to have on the table, cash, in order to go to this school? Because what most people don't understand is no scholarship is 100%.
Right.
You still need money.
Yeah, people think that these kids are going to these schools and it just everything's paid. So, and like especially with basketball players, they tell you all the time, "Yeah, I'm good now." You don't know about that year when I was starving in the middle of March.
Yep, exactly. And I've been able to utilize my other career. I've had a lot of careers, David. I've used to utilize my other career. I used to be an adjunct professor at a local university. And so even just kind of understanding that process. And I just wanted to be able to kind of take all these pieces of knowledge that I have, but package it in a way that really will be effective for that student to be recruited and be seen. It's silly to have all these skills on the field wasted if when they're looking at the whole package, it's not the right package for that university.
Right.
So we never want to give that opportunity, any kind of opening. Instead, let's just go ahead and really prepare that student overall and start before senior year. We're going to start at like 8th grade to freshman. Because, again, you don't want to be information overload at the very end.
Right.
And feel like, I got to get all this stuff on top of everything else.
Yeah, and having taught high school seniors by that last month, that they're pretty much about to pull their hair out of their head.
Right.
I've had to console students that are having meltdowns. I'm not going to get my grade. Your teacher has to turn in your grade.
Yeah.
I got to walk. You're going to walk.
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah.
So I can understand 8th and 9th grade is probably the perfect starting point for these students with this program. Being an entrepreneur is scary.
It is. It is very scary.
How do you navigate being an entrepreneur in this extremely uncertain time?
Yeah. There's a term called grit, right? And it's a term that I think really plays it comes to the head with entrepreneurs. They're able to see that, it's not pretty every day, that check does not come at the end of the month. It comes when you do the work and you hope the client pays. And knowing that you always kind of work in this uncertainty of, I may not get paid, so what do I need to do to make sure that I will get paid? It's not like I'm just going to show up, do my work, and the paycheck comes at the end of 2 weeks. No, that's not how it happens.
No, that's not it at all.
But I will say it's also very much like, going to the casino in the sense of like sometimes the payout's really big and you get the same check every 2 weeks. But as an entrepreneur, if you work your butt off, sometimes it really pays off. Yeah. And you're able to really work really hard and know that that's what I'm worth and I'm actually going to get it.
Yeah, I always tell my friends when they ask me about it, I always tell them, well, yeah, it's kind of a struggle every here and there a lot of the times, but I'm one good book sales month from a big payday. I'm one big move from a massive payday. So when you get them, and then when you don't, you just kind of roll with those punches.
Yeah.
And seeing as how 2020 has like the punches all in the face,
Right.
Makes it that much more difficult. Where do you see your businesses going? Hold on. Sorry. Where do you see your businesses going with Bellissimo, Unlock, anything else you may? Are you building an empire or what's going on with you?
Yeah, hashtag boss babe, right?
Boss babe.
No, and that's what's funny about that comment is like, if you know me, I'm not that chick. I like to do what I like to do. And so I think the core of who I am and my businesses are, I want to empower individuals. I want them to see what they don't see. I want them to kind of put a mirror in front of things, whether it's a literal mirror or whether it's a figurative mirror of showing them all these other things that they have and all these great talents that they have. So I see Bellissimo being here, staying here. But again, as an entrepreneur, you need to pivot. You need to change. You got to figure it out. And I know that Unlock is something I can do virtually. So why not keep educating myself on the photography end, but still go forward and be able to be that entrepreneur in another sense. And then I Unlock is great because I have a partner in that, and she's amazing, and she knows exactly what the vision is, and she's doing extremely good work just in the front end to make sure that it all comes together. So that's something that could be, I'm seen as kind of like a silent partner. It could be a handover. It could be whatever it may look like. Or it could be simply I split my time down the middle. And because during all this, I'm also doing nonprofit consulting. So, because again, there's always got to be something.
Right.
But again, that's part of the entrepreneurial spirit, right? You have to keep pushing. You have to keep bringing in something everywhere,
Yeah, you find yourself coming up with different opportunities for yourself or creating different outlets. Just this podcast is just another outlet I've created because you have to do the pivot, like you said. You have to pivot, and you have to kind of just create on the fly and continue. If you're going to continue doing this, if you're not, some people are just they're gonna stop and go do whatever they have to do.
Yeah.
But if you're gonna continue to do this, you're going to have to always be thinking.
Yeah.
Always inside of your head, which can always be a scary place. Do you ever?
Yep.
Do you ever sometimes just kind of think about all of the projects that you're coming up with, all the things that you're dealing with? How do you just handle that? Because I know there's a lot of people that may be listening and they're in that same position, but they may not always know how to handle, I got a new idea, I have this much money, I have this much time, and I have life stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think part of that is just saying yes where you can do it, and don't let yourself be the stopping point. I think many times there are people that have, again, a bunch of different visions, but they're like, well, I can't do that, or that's going to be impossible on top of this other project I'm working with, and they already like make themselves stop before they even started.
Right.
And so I try to do things effectively, but at the same time go, you know what? I don't know when these limitations are going to go away. So instead of just sitting here and freezing, because I've done that in the past, just keep moving forward. And
that's a bar.
Yeah. You gotta keep moving forward, because if you don't, that just means you stopped, and eventually you're gonna roll back. And if I just keep pushing forward, eventually I'll get on top.
That's another bar. You said something interesting during the break that I thought was really interesting as a photographer. You were talking about that you're not if you pulled out if I pulled out a bunch of lenses right now, you'd probably look at it like, okay, yeah. Talk about that. Talk about, because some people think that they have to know everything before they even get started.
Yeah.
And how much of a bold-faced lie is that?
That is the biggest lie, and it's honestly the thing that stops most people from ever starting, because they think, I need to have a degree in this, I need to be educated in this area, I need, specifically like with artists, right? Like you're like, I know for the longest I worked in academia, and I was very proud of, you know, the education I have. You know, I have 2 master's degrees.
Right.
Did they serve me? Yes. Are they still serving me in some site? Yes. But because I didn't ever get educated in photography, I never wanted to call myself a photographer, which
Right.
was crazy. I'm like, you take pictures, people pay you for those pictures. You're a photographer.
Yeah.
But it was something that I had to finally just go, you know what? I think a lot of people are faking the funk. Let me just go ahead and be transparent and go, yeah, no, I'm not trained. But if you like the stuff that I have and you love the experience you get when you're with me, that's really all that matters.
It's the end result.
Yeah.
It's always about the end result. And what I have noticed is that people don't really worry so much about your knowledge of the accessories. We can talk about lenses and have a cursory knowledge and laugh it up, but you know, most people will come in and be like, I have no idea what you're talking about anyway.
Right.
People just want the end product. And what is it about your end product you think that does it for people?
My ability to help individuals relax and just be comfortable in front of the camera, to simply exhale and allow themselves to be seen, because so many times, whether it's a selfie taken from an angle that shows, you know, maybe certain things, you know, a little bit thinner, a little bit, you know, whatever it may be, right?
Oh, you gotta have the angle.
Yeah, exactly. You gotta have the angle, right? And not that that's not you, but it's like we've gotten to a point where if it's not the filtered version of us, then we don't want to show it. And so I tell people, I'm going to show you as I'm taking the pictures, no filter, no Photoshop. I'm going to show you what you are and who you are. And by allowing people to see that, they realize, I don't need a filter.
Nope.
I don't need something to make me thinner or fuller in some areas or whatever it may be. I just need to show up as me and be relaxed in front of the camera. And those are beautiful pictures. So that is what I think is different, is that it's just able to be relaxed, and that's where I think I have the best skill set. Not my knowledge of the lens, not my knowledge of what's the base camera for this type of photography. I don't know. But what I do know is my camera works for me, my lenses work for me, but my ability to make somebody relax and feel beautiful is what works best for me.
Yeah, if you guys don't know, or if you haven't heard, Bellissimo Photography is, again, one of the premier boudoir studios in the area. So I need everybody, first of all, to go over to her website. And what's the website, JENITA?
It's bellissimoPhotos.com. So that's BELLISSIMOPHOTOS.com.
Cool. And on there, you're going to see the gorgeous gallery of photos, her packages, and everything that she has. And if you are an athlete, student athlete in the area, or a parent of a student athlete, and you're like, oh, I kind of like what she was talking about with Unlock, where can they go to get more information about Unlock?
Sure. It's unlockthestudentathlethe.com. We have all information about that and what is to come. Everything from character development training to a social media audit to just simply having those interview skills and communication skills. We can help you out, and we can help your student athlete out.
That's perfect. And JENITA, where can people reach you on socials and all that good stuff?
So on Instagram, I am Bellissimo Photo Studio. On Facebook, I am Bellissimo Photography Studio. And for Unlock, it's Unlock the Student Athlete on all social media forms.
Well, perfect. I just want to thank you again for coming out and spending a little time with us. I know we kind of got off to a rocky start.
No, you're good.
No, I'm messing with my producer because he's a perfectionist. So I have to give him a hard time. But once again, we had another great show, and Jay, just want to thank you one more time for coming out and spending some time with us. We're going to wrap the show up right now, and I am David Gordon. This is the Foresight Podcast. If you would like to get in touch with me, of course, you can reach me at DKG72 on Twitter and Instagram. We have a Facebook fan page and a TikTok. That's David Gordon 72. If you guys really like what you're hearing, what you're seeing on the DKG 72 YouTube channel, in the link below for both this podcast and the video, there will be a link in the description below. I should say there will be a link for my Patreon. So please head over to Patreon and sign up, pick a level, and support, because when you guys do that, well, that makes it a little bit easier for the studio to produce great vlogs, podcasts, and all that good stuff. And super producer Lamar, how can people reach you?
TheLamarHarris.com.
That's TheLamarHarris.com. Don't you have a podcast, man?
Backroom Beats, Tuesday through Friday, during the daytime.
Backroom Beats.
Check out my IG at LamarHarris314.
At LamarHarris314. That's his IG. Backroom Beats is his podcast. That's every Tuesday through Friday, right?
Yes.
And it's at 9 a.m. or around such a...
It's before noon.
Before noon.
Specific, I love it.
Yeah, it's before noon. So look, Backroom Beats, Foresight Podcast. I think that's pretty much it. So I will just say to you guys, thank you one more time, and we will talk to you next episode. Peace.